How on earth do we put ourselves first when we're living with a chronic illness? I thought it would be great to sit down with a guest who works with others living with diabetes. I feel like what she teaches is really helpful for anybody living with diabetes on how we can gain trust back with our bodies and start to lead again with who we are and work with our condition in a way that still makes sure that we're doing okay, but doesn't take away the essence of who we are. So let's do it. Hi, Lissy. How are you today?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. This is awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm equally excited to have you. Been following for a while, so it's cool to not only meet someone else who totally gets the diabetes space, but also is a podcaster as well. Thank you so much for your time today. I want to really start to talk about how, especially when you're working with clients now, what you find the most difficult thing to do when you're trying to live with a chronic illness holistically, like Crohn's or like diabetes. So I'm curious as to what your take is on how we can approach that and how people struggle with that when they're trying to just get by, basically.
Yeah, and that's an important question to ask because I feel like the biggest thing that we all go through, no matter what, when you're diagnosed with a condition like this, is that we go into that all or nothing thinking because we're told, okay, by our doctors, just do this, just take your injections. Or some of my clients are told that dangerous information of just eat really healthy or eat low carb and just exercise more, which kind of gets us into this spiral thinking of, okay, now I just need to do this every single day. I can't have the bread. I can't have the foods that I typically love. And now I have to work out every single day, which is then putting more stress on our body. But we tend to have this all or nothing thinking. So I think that is the biggest, the biggest thing holding us back because we're told like this, we think of it as like an equation of, okay, if I just count my carbs, if I just take my injection, if I just exercise, everything will be fine. But then we start living it, we start managing, we start doing the things that we are told, and everything is not fine.
Mhm.
Either our A1C is, for me, a big thing was that I was doing those things and my A1C was okay. I was 6.8 in the range that my doctor wanted it to be, but I was feeling awful. I
Yeah.
felt like shit all the time. Every time I brought that to my doctor, they just gave me this overgeneralized, well, you're doing great. This is what it's supposed to look like. And then what does that lead us to? We have that mindset of, oh, I have this condition. This is what it's supposed to feel like. So I'm just going to accept that. And that sucks. That really sucks to say, okay, this is my new quality of life when there can be more. So I think going back to that question of we have to overcome that part of that acceptance and almost accept that there's more to it that we can be involved or that we can just bring into that quality of life.
I would love to see health coaches being just as integrated in the medical teams as anything else. My dietitian can see what my primary is doing and what my endo is doing, and then they'll ask, "Hey, when you go to your eye doctor, grab whatever information there." And there's that conversation going. Okay, let me refer you to this specialist or whatever. How do you find and appreciate something that you're frustrated with and that you want to see changes in, or that you want to take things out or put things in or whatever, and be able to just coexist with this thing that you have to keep an eye out on your shoulder?
It's a hard concept for sure. I was diagnosed with it when I was 19. Before that, I was a gymnast for 10 years. All I really knew was feeling strong. Like my best friend in middle school called me man arms because I was jacked. Like I was a competitive gymnast. And so I was used to feeling strong. I was used to my doctors just telling me I was little, I was petite. And so they were always like, just eat anything you want. Like as long as you're eating, you're good. So then when I was 19, diagnosed with type 1, it was almost, I felt very blindsided because I was like, all I've known is trusting my body for the past 19 years. And now suddenly I don't know what I can eat. I don't know what I can't eat. I don't know why this happened. There were so many things going on. And now I'm having all of those outside perspectives of cut out gluten. Don't let them give you insulin because then you'll be dependent for the rest of your life. All those outside conversations that happened in the beginning. And then fast forward 4 years, I'm hit with another chronic illness,
Yeah.
which now is not just about blood sugar numbers, but it's about physical pain. And that for me, like I could handle the diabetes at that point. Like I felt, okay, this is a part of my life. I've integrated it for 4 years now. But bring on physical pain, it's very different. And I had a hard time, trusting any food I was putting in my body. I'm like, okay, I know how to handle the blood sugars, but now what can I eat to not cause inflammation? Like, how can I bring this part into it now? And so I stopped eating because it was just easier not to have to think about it. I didn't want to work out because I didn't feel strong anymore. There's a lot going on where I had no trust in my body. I can either spend this energy hating my body and resenting it and not trusting it, or I can flip this switch and say, I'm going to learn how to take care of it and I'm going to meet my body where it is. And that's where things changed. That's where you start bringing in these diagnoses to all those other areas of your life. And that's how you start trusting again. Like, nah, I feel like I am healthier, like in a weird sense. Like, you go to your doctor's office and you hear these diagnoses and all the medications you're on, and they're like, you're not healthy. But in a sense, I feel healthier than I have ever felt because I know that I'm nourishing my body. I know what it needs, like through the exercise that I'm doing. I'm learning more about my hormonal health. I'm taking care of it more from the inside out and both ends. So I think it's in how we view what this diagnosis is doing. Do we want to resent it? Some days it's still going to happen. Of
Yeah.
course, there are days where I'm like, a few weeks ago we were going to a wedding and my pump leaked. My blood sugar was sitting at 400 all day. I was leaving, like I was traveling from New Jersey to Philadelphia for this wedding. And I'm like, this is not the time or the place. And I'm mad that this is even happening. That's always going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's like, where do we want to spend this energy? What's more conducive to our health and our overall wellness? So that to me was a huge learning curve in just that aspect of maybe there's still sometimes I don't trust it completely, but how am I going to go about that?
Yeah, you made me think about cognitive behavior disorders and
Mm,
how when I was learning about it, um, how your body processes emotions and that each emotion, anger being the most strong, and I actually replace anger with passion now because I'm trying to remove negative ideas around those things because it's just a feeling and it's not a bad feeling either. It happens to all of us.
yeah, I think it's okay to have that grieving process
Yeah.
too. If there's anything I wish, because when I was diagnosed, my advisors, my professors were telling me this would be a good time to withdraw because you're in the spring semester, take the rest of the semester in the summer and come back.
Hmm.
That's not an option. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. Because again, more of that stubbornness than anything else. But at the same time, looking back, I think having that time to grieve and to actually at least be able to process, okay, what do I want this to look like for me instead of just going in the day to day, okay, now I have to manage, now I have to check my blood sugar, just go. I think it would have been time well spent to take that. And I'm glad that you got that with the pandemic. I know a lot of my clients actually did too,
Yeah.
which I think is yeah, if there's anything we can appreciate, it's
Yeah.
funny.
I feel like that should be a part of our of treatment plans
Mhm.
because like you said, we're conditioned, especially when we're like jobs and school, like you only get so much time off. And I really do wish that they would implement a grieving process of, hey, when you're diagnosed, whether you're in school, whether you're at work or whatever, this is thing just happened. This person allow them 2 weeks to figure out and adjust how this is supposed to be in our life because that's something that I don't know about you, but felt rushed.
I was just gonna say, like, walking to my endocrinologist appointment or that first university health services appointment where I was diagnosed, I had done the Googling. So I walked in figuring, okay, this is gonna be type 1 diabetes. But even no matter how much you prepare yourself for that moment, you're not prepared.
Yeah.
Because I still didn't know what carb counting was. I didn't even know what a carb was at that point, which is embarrassing, but didn't know what a carb was. You don't expect the injections to happen right away.
Yeah.
You're not, no matter how prepared you are, you're not prepared.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. There needs to be that time.
So that leads me to my next question. And I've heard variations of responses to this, but it's always to me a good thing to talk about it is how do we lead our medical team instead of them controlling us?
We're conditioned to have this reliance on our doctors. And that comes from that same attitude that you're talking about of, I know this better than you do, which, okay, yes, they went to school for it. They understand the science behind it. But majority of our endocrinologists or doctors or physicians are not living with the same condition.
Yeah.
So as easy and as much of a equation, quote unquote, that they might see this as, it is almost never that way. So the first thing that I always like talk to my clients about is like, what does that relationship look like right now? Are you reliant on that relationship? Where do you feel ownership in your diabetes right now? Yes, you're doing it day to day, but do you actually have that ownership when you're in that appointment? So I think it's okay to to preface in that like you're allowed to change your doctor.
Yeah.
You're allowed to go get different consultations. You're allowed to see, like, you're allowed to get referrals. You're allowed to do that. There is nothing saying that you have to see the same doctor, even if it was your childhood doctor and now you're an adult and they're not giving you the support that you need. It is okay to change. I did that. I was seeing an NP and I thought that she was just very like simplifying everything, give me overgeneralized advice. And I stayed within the same hospital, but I actually found a new doctor and I love her now. She's very, we're on the same page. I'm here when you need me, but when you come to your appointments, I'm expecting you to show up with the questions of what you need. We'll go through apps, but I'll ask you a question. And if you're telling me that was just a rough day, all right, we're good. You want to make adjustments to your insulin management? Go have at it. We'll talk about it when I see you in 3 months. So I think it's okay to find those providers that are giving that they're just that extra leg of support. They're asking you what you need and answering the questions that you have, but how are they empowering you to take control over your own diagnosis?
Yeah, I think it's huge what you said about it's okay to change your medical team. I have a 3 strike rule now of I
Mm.
will see you 3 times, and if I'm not feeling that we are understanding each other, that we are building a rapport and a relationship that is going to be progressive for my health, then I need to find somebody else.
So we have a 10-week program that takes our clients through basically a hybrid coaching experience. So there's a community aspect along with one-on-one coaching inside. I'm joined by two co-coaches who are absolutely incredible. We have a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator on our team to teach about the bolus strategies, nutrition. We have a women's wellness coach who talks about hormonal health. I myself am a health coach and personal trainer. So we talk about all about lifestyle and exercise and creating blood sugar supporting habits. So getting more of that true holistic experience that I wish that I had when I was first diagnosed and even years later. So that's how the program was born. Beyond the A1C is our private coaching experience so that people who want that true one-on-one experience that they're not getting in their endocrinologist office, they can get that experience too. So I love what we do. I love what we've created.
What's one tip that you would give someone who just feels like they're fighting with their body and their diagnosis? I would love to hear what you would share to somebody who has that mentality.
There's a spectrum when it comes to our relationship with our body and our diagnosis. And we either find ourselves on one end where we are compartmentalizing diabetes. So let's just say diabetes is it's in its own little box.
Yeah.
We don't want diabetes to spread to any other area. We don't want it to be involved in any other area, our social life, our relationships, our career. So we keep it in its own separate little box. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have where it's all consuming, where diabetes is not just in every other area and it's not just in every other box, but it's overflowing the box. There's not much room for any thought process and anything else. We're out with our friends and we're just thinking about our blood sugar. We are watching our monitors all night. What we want to do is have that middle ground where we are coexisting with it. So the first thing I always tell my clients is figure out where you're at. Where is diabetes right now? Are you compartmentalizing it or is it feeling really consuming?
Mm.
And then go a step further and identify those different areas of your life, like those areas of wellness, your social life, your career, your finances, your home environment, all those things. Figure out where it is mostly feeling consuming or where you are mostly compartmentalizing it. And then work from there and say, how can I start integrating this diagnosis into these areas? What are some habits that I can just start bringing in? What conversations can I have? What boundaries do I need to lay out for other people or myself? What are some of those things that need to happen for me to feel more of that balance in that area? So I think it all comes down and not like when we think of diabetes and our diagnosis, it can feel really overwhelming because it does. We're taught we make 180 plus decisions every single day. We're taught that it affects every single area, but we're not taught how to handle that. And so we feel really controlled by it. We feel like we are just flying by the seat of our pants and we resent the diagnosis. So if we can start taking control and taking ownership over those areas bit by bit, that's going to make the biggest influence and impact on not only our diabetes management, but our life with diabetes. And that's what I really think the picture needs to turn into is what do I want this life with diabetes to look like, whether you're type 1 or type 2 or insulin dependent or not. It's an important question to ask. So that would definitely be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, I love that. I love the concept of reverse engineering things because it's so easy to look at here's where I'm at and here's the big picture where I'm supposed to be. I am so glad that we got to connect and chat. If people want to connect with you, if they want to join your coaching program or check out Keeping It 100 Radio, like how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I'm mostly hanging out on Instagram. So at needles and spoons underscore. Needles comes from obviously the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes, and spoons comes from the spoon theory. If you haven't heard of it, I definitely recommend just doing a quick Google search because it really lays out how people use energy with chronic illnesses. So needles and spoons underscore on Instagram, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any of your podcasting platforms. You can look up Keep You 100 Radio. That's where we're having all those uncensored conversations that we don't really bring into our endo's office, or that maybe people who your friends and family aren't understanding that really play into your diagnosis. And then if you want to learn more about coaching, or we have a ton of free resources, you can go to needlesandspoons.com and find out more there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your just crazy amount of wisdom and understanding. And I'm so glad that you were out there supporting so many of us in our journeys because, as you firsthand, it is not easy. But if we can get back into a flow of just that harmony with our bodies and knowing that we can take control, I think that's the part diabetes feels like it's so uncontrollable sometimes that it's impossible to do. So I'm very grateful for what you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so lucky to just meet some really cool people, honestly, y'all. So, Lissy, thank you so much again for your just perspective, wisdom, and everything that you are doing for those living with diabetes and changing not only how we view things, but how we can have a better relationship with our bodies and living with this illness. Be sure to go check out everything that Lissy is doing. I will make sure all of her links are in the show notes for you. Check out her coaching program, her one on one coaching. Check out Keeping It 100 Radio. She's got some great episodes on there that I think a lot of you would enjoy because y'all know I love perspective. And it's cool to see how others are tackling a lot of the things that we're dealing with when it comes to the diabetes community. Go follow on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also make sure you listen on all of your favorite podcast platforms. If you have anything that you want to share or comments or ideas or stories, please don't hesitate to reach out. So, with that being said, I'm going to get out of here, but I will see you guys next week. Bye.